Hello, Keith Prather here with an NCM RV update. So the RV index this month was kind of interesting because it was just modestly softer. I know it looks a little more aggressive when you look at it on the actual chart, but we came in with an index of 121.2. It's down from 121.8. It's just 0.5% lower month over month. Not a big deal. 5.6% lower year over year, however. But if you go back and you look, 2025 was kind of an anomalous year, is what we're saying. And I've talked about this in some of the other videos if you're watching them. But we had the tariff scare last year, and the tariff scare pushed a lot of buyers that were going to be spending at the tail end of the year. As you can see the dip here, pushed them into the beginning of the year, and so we pulled forward that demand. And based on that, we had a nice surge, but then we paid for it after that. This is a little steadier, and so what we're seeing is historically, a pretty decent level of demand. Obviously, nothing at all like the COVID peak when we were all in lockdown and people were going out and enjoying the outdoors because they'd been cooped up for a year. We have nothing like that, but from an overall historical performance perspective, this isn't bad. This is an anomaly. This is an anomaly. And prior to that, you're looking at levels prior to the pandemic being pretty much in line. So I don't want to sugarcoat it. I mean, I know there's pressures out there. I know there's a lot of things happening, and we're going to talk about a lot of that in the third slide coming up. But I just wanted to give you an idea and kind of put some perspective around it. Now, when we look at the actual RV sales index, jogging a little bit sideways over the last 4 or 5 months, but again, not a dip. Again, a jog sideways, a little below the long-term average, but a 1.5% higher year over year. And coming into this year, or even last year, if we had said, you can expect 2 to 2.5% growth for a lot of dealerships, that'd be pretty good. That's a decent or an average year. It's not these spike years that you like to see, but again, it's decent growth in a general sense. But where I really wanted to focus my time was on just a few things for you to consider. So, number one, fuel prices are the biggest change, and I think the RV industry might be the one industry where this has maybe the biggest impact. Automotive, based on the buyers that were in the market, we see a lot of people that will go out and still buy brand new, automotive, brand new units, replacing older cars, that kind of thing. But in the RV industry, there's more sensitivity to it because for most people, RVs are, I don't want to say a luxury, but they're a discretionary item, right? They're what we would consider to be non-essential. Now, I know there are RV buyers out there where it's absolutely essential. I mean, it's their home. I know that a lot of folks that have jobs where they're mobile and they move a lot, will have a pull behind or maybe even a powered unit, and they spend the majority of their time in it, and that's their home. And I think those are great. It's just it's only a percentage of the market. And so when we're watching the bigger, broader part of the market, that's where we kind of get hit. So I want to go back and I want to show you what happened to us the last time we had a diesel surge like what we've got right now. So in 2008, diesel went from about $3.31 a gallon to about $4.70 a gallon. And remember, at this time, the financial crisis had not hit us yet. The financial crisis was in October of that year, spilling over into 2009. So this was before the financial crisis, and we all believe, a lot of us on the economic side, believe that it was the impact of what happened with fuel prices and what happened with the price of oil that led us into that recession. And so at that time, 2008, we had a 42% increase in diesel prices over 7 months. Remember, this is about the same escalation we've had this time around, except that diesel right now is up around $5.60 a gallon. Approaching the all-time highs of around $5.70. Again, if you haven't watched the macroeconomic video, go check it out. It's a little bit long, but I talk about all that in that video and what happens with diesel prices. RV shipments over that period of time also collapsed, and they dropped from about 390,000 annual units at that time to about 165,000, so down about 57% over those 18 months. What we don't know is what happened then again, as I said, was we went into this diesel surge, And then we had a little bit of an economic collapse that came after that, leading into the financial crisis, and diesel prices came right back down. But at that time, then we started to see a surge in layoffs, and we were in the financial crisis. The credit markets tightened up, and so it became a very different environment. And so this 57% decline over 18 months just simply says that there were lag-on effects that really hit us in 2009. That was a big dip. So what we don't know was what was just the diesel collapse, what was attributable to just diesel collapse, and what was other factors. And so we know it had an impact, we just don't know how deep it is. I only send that out as a warning. I will say, and I've said this in other videos as well, that the key here is a word that you may be familiar with, maybe you're not, but we're going to say duration is the key here. And the duration of this diesel price spike, the longer it stays, the longer it stays up in that 550, 560, 570 range per gallon, the longer the impact will be and the more severe it will be. So right now, today, if the Strait were to open tomorrow and diesel prices would come back down, we'd call it a blip and we'd say we're going to blow right through this. But again, go watch the macro video, because that's not the signals we're getting out of the Strait of Hormuz right now. And it feels like we got a little more pressure coming. And so the duration of this diesel spike is probably going to last a little bit longer. We're going to be watching to see if it goes 60, 90, 120 days, or what that duration looks like. And so that's what we're watching. So a couple different things. There's an odd dynamic from the parking the unit effect, right? So a lot of people will simply say, if I already own an RV, I can't afford to go put fuel in it, so I'm gonna park it. And what's interesting is history has shown, and this may help you with messaging or how to go out and actually, target customers. If you're doing digital mailers, if you're doing physical mailers, you may want to remind them that now's a great time to do upgrades. What we found historically is that repair and storage related work actually increases during a parking the unit moment. So, a lot of those who are storing units realize that since I'm just going to park it out back, I can go ahead and open it up, and I can do a lot of work on, roof sealing, a lot of battery maintenance, any cover accessory work that I want to do to kind of get ready for the next season, or to get ready for when diesel prices do come down. And we will see people kind of prepare for that, and you see an odd little surge in some of that work. So be sensitive to it again, and you may want to start messaging on it. And I don't know that you want to talk to them about actually parking their vehicles, but there's a way to go in and promote that, to maybe promote into that phase that we normally see. We also see that aftermarket parts and accessories see a modest uptick, and a lot of owners who aren't really going out and buying trips, and they're out traveling around, sometimes they invest in the unit at the home. Particularly what we've found is slide out maintenance, a lot of awning replacement, a lot of, as we said before, a lot of exterior sealant work gets done while we're kind of in this parking unit moment. So RV show attendance was good before the conflict. We don't know if the conflict actually has shut that off, but we did have a lot of browsers, a lot of people out driving around and looking at it. And I think some of it could be what I deleted this month, but it's still in effect, and it's the great wealth effect. We talked about that before, and I do think that there are a lot of households that are now deciding that it's a great time. I'm sick and tired of the rat race. I'm sick and tired of what's going on in the marketplace, and so I'm going to retire. I'm going to take early retirement. And a lot of them are making that decision after they've gone in and they've inherited a lot of wealth. And you see them say, hey, you know what, instead of buying a new home, I'm going to go buy a really nice fancy RV, and we're going to go glamping. You see that a lot. And so that's kind of a big factor. And so I think you got to watch that. The other thing, parts availability, I've talked a lot about supply chain pressures and compression, and I think that's going to be a factor. Again, as the Strait of Hormuz continues to get shut down, we're starting to see parts availability, especially anything with plastics, aluminum, some of those things that where we got 30 to 40% of the world's raw materials that went into the production of those products coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. Those are where the big compression are going to be. And if there's a favorability thing, and what I mean by that is if a parts supplier has basically a hierarchy of who they fulfill orders for first, we call it their allotments, right? Based on those allotments, depending on where you are in the pecking order, they're going to fulfill your order first. And so If it's a lower margin, lower cost type of product, maybe that goes into an RV as a replacement part, they may prioritize something that has more urgency, that's getting a bigger margin, and we'll start to see those parts compression start to build. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean the part that you're getting from your OEM, from your home office, or from the home warehouse. It's upstream in their supply chain. So it's the switch that goes into the component that you're building at the OEM level that then goes into the RV. So parts availability, watch that. And again, service satisfaction is key. One of the things that I saw come out specifically about this particular sector for NCM clients is that the dealer risk here is much greater than it is, believe it or not, in other categories for NCM. So service satisfaction here, there's so many repeat buyers based on their dealer relationship. And that dealer relationship, a lot of RV buyers will travel long distances, both for service and also for new purchases. And so you want to really make sure that that service satisfaction really stays in place. And one of the best things to do that, I mean, a shortage is a shortage. You can't go manufacture a part on your own, but the way you communicate that is critical. And so just make sure that you're communicating it in a good way. I've used this example so many times, and I don't think I've done it in this one. Maybe if I'm repeating a story, I apologize, but I just had to have a transmission serviced in a vehicle. And the way the service manager talked to me, he said, "Hey, we've had a backlog on that order, and I don't know whether we're going to get it in a week or 6 months. I really can't tell you. I can't give you an answer." And I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do in the meantime?" He's like, I don't know. You're going to have to find a workaround, or drive it broken." And there's a different way to say that. And so you might be communicating to your service managers exactly how to do that. Motorhome segment, though, just posted a really meaningful January. I think a lot of that is going to be that the higher income retirement age buyers who are really kind of anchored in the Class A and Class C segments. They're not retreating like some other segments are. And again, a lot of those are getting the benefits of some of this great wealth transfer that are taking place. And so just watch for that. Again, these are early retirees. They're going to be in the 50-year-old range, not 50, but the 50s, in the early 60s. And so they're agile, they're mobile. A lot of their kids are gone. They're empty nesters, but they have a lot of wherewithal and doing great retirement so far, taking an early retirement, and then using the great wealth transfer to go in and make a big purchase like this. So watch. I mean, the premium buyer is growing in size, if you will, and promotions that draw them out and make them think about what it's like to go RVing if they've never done it in their life should still be very important and kind of be interesting to them. Okay, so that's what I had for you this month. We do have a lot of things still ongoing out in the marketplace. Again, go watch the macroeconomic video that I recorded, and there should be some interest there, some things about the Strait of Hormuz. That's what we're watching critically, and we'll have an update for that for you on that coming up next month, and so watch for that. In the meantime, I hope you all are doing well. I hope you stay safe, and we'll see you next month. All right, take care.